Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the earnings call of Equitas Small Finance Bank Limited financial performance for Q2 FY22. We have with us today Mr. P. N. Vasudevan, MD and CEO, Mr. Sridharan N., CFO, Mr. Murali Vaidyanathan, Senior President and Country Head, Branch Banking, Liabilities, Product and Wealth, Mr. Rohit Phadke, Senior President and Head Retail Assets, Mr. Ram Subramanian, President and Head Corporate and MSE Banking, Mr. Natarajan M., President and Head Treasury, Mr. Dheeraj M., SVP and Head Treasury, IR, BI and Customer Experience, Mr. Rahul R., DVP, Strategy and IR, and Ms. Srimati Raghunathan, CFO, Equitas Holdings Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. P. N. Vasudevan. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you and good morning to all of you, and thank you for taking the time to attend this call. I hope you have had the time to go through our quarterly performance given that there was a slew of results yesterday. The second quarter was very good on many fronts. The vaccination drive has picked up significantly and the fear of third wave is receding. We have done our bit also by helping to vaccinate over 2 million people from the low-income segments and rural by working with various local governments. We are looking forward with a lot more confidence to an undisturbed market in times to come. Collection efficiencies came back sharply during the quarter, helping reduce the bucket size across the DPDs. Lead indicators like disbursement, check bounce ratio were trending to the pre-COVID levels. As you would have noticed, our ex-bucket collection efficiency for the three large segments, small business loan, vehicle finance and microfinance are almost back to the pre-COVID levels, which provides comfort that the first quarter lockdown-induced stress build-up is behind us. As indicated in the last quarter, we have restructured around 1,400 crores during the year and continue to maintain our guidance on credit cost of 2.5% for this year. We also hope to see loan growth rates revert back to 25% plus soon. On the liabilities front, we continue to gain market share and we are seeing a healthy traction on customer acquisition, deepening increased product holding and improved customer activity. Our CASA ratio remains quite healthy. We are also expanding into Kerala with a few handful of branches. Murali will take you through it in more details shortly. We have seen good traction on some of our digital initiatives rolled out earlier, and we expect digital channels to remain a strong support for our liability ramp-up. Given the improvement in the environment, we believe we should be back to our normal levels of performance from the third quarter. Status of merger of the holding company with a bank, SEBI has relaxed the 3-year 20% promoter lock-in requirement for the holding company, which is a very good support that we have received from SEBI. This significantly crunches the timeline for the merger, and now the bank is working towards meeting the minimum public shareholding requirement of 25% in the bank through a QIP which the board approved recently, and this should clear the path for the merger. We continue to expect to complete the entire merger process by the third quarter of next financial year. Lastly, I am happy to share that Equitas has entered into an engagement with IFC to help sharpen our ESG focus on gender and climate financing. This should help us in improving our disclosures around these themes and provide innovative financing opportunities that can help us continue to grow responsibly. Thank you so much, and now I hand over to Rohit.
Good morning, everybody. Last quarter saw disbursements moving to an all-time high. Collection efficiencies improved across buckets. Increased vaccination and opening up of disbursement businesses helped improve cash flows. GNPA in small business loans came down to 3.6%. As you are aware that these are loans given to informal customers and are priced in the late teens to mitigate the risk. SBL forms 45% of our current retail asset book. Microfinance also saw improved collection efficiencies. Ex-bucket efficiencies were at 97.6%, but our comfort level of 99%. Attendance at center meetings has improved and overall collection efficiencies have improved substantially, making us optimistic about further improvements in Q3. Our affordable home loan business is gaining traction and we are expanding in the south. We have started disbursements in Tamil Nadu. Our initial presence was in Gujarat and Maharashtra, and now we are expanding into TN and Karnataka. The team strength in affordable housing has gone to now 200. In vehicle finance, we too saw strong demand for credit. Our market share in new small commercial vehicles has improved significantly. It's moved up from 6% to 9% in the markets that we operate in. Diesel prices have gone up, and yes, this time freight rates have also gone up significantly. Last quarter saw diesel prices going up by 26%, but freight rates moved up only by 7 to 10%. This time, freight rates have gone up significantly, and the transporters are remunerated sufficiently. And as a result of this, we saw all manufacturers ramping up demand in August. CV sales have moved up, but CV sales are significantly down as compared to pre-COVID levels. Freight rates have increased because of the availability also of load owing to increased manufacturing and e-commerce activities. The formal economy seems to be gaining strength, which is indicated in rising manufacturing activity, increasing retail sale of luxury goods and high and mid-segment cars. Now it's a different proposition that cars are not available, but that's primarily because of the semiconductor chips, but demand is very strong and bookings are very strong. However, there's always a lag in improvement, in the informal economy, which is indicated by a degrowth in two-wheelers. Two-wheelers is a barometer of how the informal economy or the rural economy does. Two-wheeler sales were down by 17%, and Hero Honda, which has the largest share, was down by 27%. The silver lining is that monsoons have been good, and tractor sales are at a record high. They've grown by 10% year on year, and H1 saw tractor sales of 5.5 lakhs. So these are the highest tractor sales that we have seen. So the agricultural produce and the agricultural economy seems to be doing well. I do hope, and I'm sure that the formal economy did well in the last quarter, and in this quarter, the benefits of the formal economy going up will trickle down to the informal economy, which is amply supported by rising collection efficiencies. And this quarter, we'll see a further and better growth in business and collections. Thank you. Over to Murli.
Good morning, friends. Thank you all for joining for the call. So just want to give you an update on how is our liabilities, branch banking, and overall acquisition deepening and our initiatives moving across. So as we said in the last call, we are adopting a 3I approach where we say that we innovate on products and processes, improvises on operational systems, and implement it through the channels. We are glad to say that we have grown on our top line, which is quality of customer acquisition through the physical channel, and also the demographic excellence we are getting it through the digital channel. Both complementing has actually yielded us a fantastic growth of close to 30% on the top line in terms of number of accounts. Now, just to give you a rough cut, we are sourcing close to 2 lakh plus CASA accounts every month, and that's one good part. Now the physical part where we say that branches and the nearest catchments, where look at the geographical excellence and penetration, and we are becoming really a neighborhood bank where we are seeing an absolute growth of 81% in terms of number of accounts getting sourced in terms of numbers, and year-on-year growth of NTB peaking up close to 400 crores in terms of initial payment. This shows the quality of customers that comes in through the geographical excellence, where our channels through VRM and map book management is playing a very instrumental role. So moving up the value chain, high value, that is HNI and mass affluent, continue to support us. The one prime reason why is we are able to get this act right is clearly focusing through the marketing, where we are building a brand where we continue to believe beyond banking is going to be the future. Like Vasu said, we are also aligning with IFC in that line. Increasingly, we find HNI and mass affluent getting aligned to this core value of empowering deserving community through saving through us. So I think that's one big update. So through all these initiatives, we are glad to say that our CASA percentage is at close to 45 to 46%, and retail has moved up to 87% of our total book. And the important part is, out of this entire retail book, 62 to 63% is individuals. So that's a very big sign. And I think these encouraging signs is happening because we have one of the best products that anyone can offer. We have one of the customer easy processes and do it to yourself, and leveraging digital not only for types and distribution, but also easing out do it yourself. And you would have seen it in our new mobile banking experience, UI UX, which we had recently revamped, is giving us a very good edge overall. So I think a combination of three helped us. And adding to the saver segment, we also expanded ourselves into a spender segment through debit card, and our debit card issuance and activations and active cards in the market has gone up substantially. I think if any questions, we'll take that later. So saver and spender taken care. Now we have launched our 3-in-1 last quarter, which is giving us a good edge for the investor community, and it is helping us to grow our AUM, and now we are ready with our ASBA too. So overall, the trajectory and the target segments and most importantly segmentation is helping us. We'll continue to keep customer first as our prime driver, and will focus on enhancing relationship management and service. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Sridharan.
Thank you, Murli. Good morning to everyone. Our net interest income came at 484 crores as compared to 461 crores during the same quarter last year. Other income came at 148 crores as compared to 55 crores in the same quarter last year, primarily driven by processing fees and income from interchange income and prepaid cards. Net income grew 22% and came at 632 crores for the quarter as compared to 516 crores during the same quarter last year. The total operating expenditure came at 395 crores as compared to 300 crores in the same quarter last year and 358 crores in the previous quarter. Increase in overall OPEX is primarily on account of investing in technology and brand building exercise. Pre-provisioning operating profit PPOP came at 195 crores as compared to 211 crores. PAT for the quarter was affected due to provisions made on restructured accounts, and PAT for Q2 FY22 came at 41 crores. Now moving on to asset quality, provisions and restructuring. We have restructured advances to the tune of 1,401 crores. This forms around 7% of the gross advances. Segment-wise breakup of restructuring has been provided in the presentation. The bank carries a provision of 196 crores towards the restructured book of 1,400 crores. Coming on to GNPA, GNPA for Q2 FY22 came at 4.64% as compared to 4.58% in Q1 of FY22 and 2.39% in Q2 FY21. Net NPA for Q2 FY22 came at 2.37% as compared to 2.3% in Q1 FY22 and 1.09% in Q2 FY21. We saw upgradations and recoveries improving sharply. The provision coverage ratio stands at 50.09%. Lastly, on the capital front, as of September 30, 2021, the total CRAR stands at 22.21% with Tier 1 of 20.96% and Tier 2 of 1.25%. With this, I would like to hand over to operator, and we will be happy to take questions from your end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one at this time. The first question is from the line of Shripal Doshi from Equirus. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank you for the detailed PPT. And congratulations on the sturdy deposit performance that we've been able to deliver over the last few quarters. So my question was firstly with respect to other income and OpEx. So I think that is the higher other income and higher OpEx is it because of the prepaid card and micro ATM business that we are doing? And what will be the net income from that rather than looking at both the aspects?
Yeah. Thank you, Murli here. You are right. As you know, in a prepaid as well as micro ATM, both these businesses, we have a TSP and then we reach customers. We have 85-15 as the revenue sharing methodology. Our absolute transaction has gone up. So as a byproduct of that, your revenue will also go up, cost will also go up. So it's proportional. It is we are not out of pocket. We are pocketing with 15% of the revenue in the entire transaction.
Got it. And secondly, on the restructuring side, so restructuring 1.0, I suppose that was 430 crore. That number has come. That number now stands at 140 crore, and the restructuring 2 is 1400 crore. So overall restructuring as on say 2Q would be 1541 crore. Is that a fair understanding?
This is Sridhan here. See, the restructuring on account of 2.0 is 1401 crores. And the 140 crores is out of the COVID RSL 1.0. Otherwise, we have restructured under RSL 1.0, 419 crores. So the total was 1,820 crores of the total restructured, including 1.0 and 2.0.
Got it. So that 419 crore has run down to 140 crore because some of it has slipped to NPA, right? During the last 6 months.
No. Actually, the RSL 1.0 is 419 crores, of which 77 has dipped into NPA. But we are, as per the RBI guidelines, we are allowed to restructure with regard to the terms and other things from out of the 1.0. Out of the 140 crores we have done actually under 2.0. So if you add the 1,400 crores of RSL2 with 140, so the total under 1.0 carried to 2.0 plus 2.0 is 1,540 crores.
Got it.
Clear?
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so just a qualitative comment with respect to how we are seeing asset quality trends in the vehicle finance segment, because there if we look, this segment is having highest share in the restructuring book. Further, like the 31 to 90 DPD details that you've given, that was highest during the last quarter, although it has come off sequentially. But if you can just give some color, what profiles are we seeing having stress here? Is it used or new vehicle? Some geography specific trends also if we can share here for this particular segment.
Hi, this is Rohit here. So there are no distinct geographic trends different anywhere across the country. We see a similar improvement across. So what has happened is you're talking about RSL1. So RSL1, first of all, we have to understand that this is a earn and pay asset. The customer buys this asset, earns by transportation, and then pays the EMI as also maintains his livelihood. So obviously, the customers who had restructured in the first COVID wave had already gone some stress because of the COVID wave 1. And they were naturally, it was natural to expect that COVID wave 2 will hit them much harder than customers who have sustained the COVID wave 1. But what has happened in the market differently this time is that unlike after COVID wave 1, the COVID wave 2 immediately hit, increased vaccination and opening of businesses have increased freights in the market. So there is improved cash flow, which is reflected in collection efficiencies even in vehicle finance. If you look at the 1 to 90, all our overdue buckets in vehicle finance have come down substantially. So to give you a qualitative flavor, one is improved freight loads because of increased manufacturing and e-commerce activities. Secondly, farm produce. See, agriculture has done pretty well, and farm produce is there because of these two activities. We do see increased activity amongst the vehicle finance customers, and we do hope that quarter three we will keep seeing these collection efficiencies improving further and a robust reduction in GNPA. Does it answer your question?
And sir, any stress? So the restructuring that we've done of 600 odd crore, what would it be from the used and the new sort of segment?
If I don't have, I'll give you the breakup.
Okay, sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the details.
Dheeraj here, just to answer the other question you first asked, our other income is about 148 crores. If I net that 148 for the expense towards the digital expenses, it's about 42. So net you can see 106 crores.
So that is the income that we've made.
Yeah,
okay.
Correct. Adjusting for the payout we do, so 106 you should read. Other income from 148, if you net that expense, it's 106.
Got it. So just one last question with respect to restructuring only. Like we've been although the restructuring is within our guidance, which we'd given during the last quarter. So how much do you see slipping to NPA? If you can give some color here on this side, slipping to NPA from the restructure pool.
So in the restructuring we did in the first round last year, we've already, I think, mentioned that about 17% or 77 odd crores has moved into NPA. In the second restructuring which we did during this year, billing has just started. So about 85% of, I think the pool is still yet to start their EMIs. So we will know in this quarter.
Okay. Got it. So thank you so much for that. And good luck for the next quarter.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Renish Harishbhai Bua from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir, and thanks for the opportunity. So sir, first question is on our liability fee income. We have seen, the customer acquisition run rate has almost gone 6-7x in last 4-5 quarters on a pretty stable OPEX. But when we look at the liability fee income, it's been quite volatile. Let's say in Q4 it was 25 crore, then it fell to 17 crore, and then again it resets back to the 24 crore. So what is happening here, and what sort of a sustainable liability fee income we expect, on this significantly higher customer acquisition run rate?
Hi, Murali here. See, some of it, 24 crores, is one part of it. Now, why is it increasing? As I covered in my earlier discussion, there are 3 reasons for this. One is debit card issuance and activation and MDR, what we get it. That proportion has gone up almost 2x. What you used to make earlier, say X, we are making it 2x. Second is, since the number of customers, as I said, they are coming in HNI and HNI Plus, our ability to sell TPP, that is investments and insurance solution through the mapped book and relationship management, has gone up. That's the real reason. If you see the number of policies and number of premium collected in our slide, it is almost double of what we were doing at the earlier stage. And third important thing is that digi banking revenue, where you do it for payment and transaction, like micro ATM, like prepaid card, and all these avenues summing up a payment plus transaction, plus debit card issuance, plus activation and MDR spend. Then we also have POS, which is, POS sale, where we have aggregator model and direct selling model. We already have close to 10-12,000. So that is also getting into MDR. So our issuance is doing, acquiring is doing, FASTag issuance and acquiring piece is yielding revenue. These are all minor revenue, but the majority 3 streams, as I said earlier, DZ issuance, investments and insurance proposition, and digital revenue. These 3 constitutes. That's the reason. It has moved up from 17 to 24. The incremental 7 has come from these 3 enhancement of our proposition.
No, sir. So basically, that investment-related income, that captures in liability piece or it captures somewhere else?
It is captured in liabilities piece only.
Okay. So my question is that, let's say in last quarter, we added almost a 5 lakh customer. This quarter, we added close to 7 lakh customers.
Correct.
So incrementally, of course, this quarter, fee income has been higher. But if I have to look at the last quarter when we added 5 lakh customer, the fee income actually fell from 25 crore to 17 crore. So I was just wondering why it is, that volatile.
It's directly proportional to the number of customers you cover through protection.
Okay. So you mean this quarter we've been able to cross-sell higher versus last quarter?
Yeah. Okay, which is customer life cycle management, where we define the customer life cycle within the first 60 days bucket, and we do continuous inducement activities, and those things are yielding results. So increasingly, if we continue this result, we will see this trajectory moving up.
Got it.
So it's spread across customers. Okay.
Got it, sir. Okay. So next question is on the again on the restructuring pool. Okay, so one is that, sir, what is the total restructuring pool? I mean 1.0, 2.0 both put together.
Sridharan here. Both 2.0 and 1.0 put together is 1,820 crores. With a breakup of 1401 crores is 2.0 and 419 crores in 1.0. And out of the 1.0, 140 crores we restructured within the RBI guidelines, 140 crores.
Got it. And sir, what is the average moratorium we provided on the restructure 2.0?
So 2.0, we have provided very less moratorium. The minimum is 1 month and the maximum is 3 months. So average would be about 1.5 months because we've given very less time for the second moratorium.
Got it. So, okay. And hence we are saying 85% of the pool will be due for EMI next month.
Yes.
Got it. And just repeating, sir, I mean, do we have any estimate what sort of slippages we might see from this pool?
I have no numbers, but see, what I can tell you is this, that as I said earlier, that the restructured one customer was already under stress during the first wave. So the second wave immediately hit him. So obviously he found it tougher to come back. I think the restructured pool will see it easier to come back. So I think things will be better. That's a qualitative comment I can definitely tell you.
Right. And so just a last clarification. So on the 2.5%,
these people, all of these people were standard in March, right? So till March, they had paid very well. So they went through the initial COVID wave stress on their own without taking any support. And that is the reason why I'm saying that it could be better.
Got it. No, I think 17% slippage from restructure 1.0 also suggests that, the sharing quality of customers are way better. Of course, we hope for the best for customer under 2.0 as well. So, sir, just last clarification on the credit cost side, which we guided for 2.5% for entire year. So this is including provision towards restructuring what we are making?
Yeah, absolutely. That already has been done. So when we do the restructuring, the provision towards restructuring has been done. So this quarter has that impact.
Got it. So this 2.5% include those provision as well?
Yes.
Okay. That's it from my side. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants in the conference, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, we would request you to rejoin the question queue. The next question is from the line of Jai Mundra from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Good morning and thanks for the opportunity and thanks for the much more detail that we have added this quarter. So first question, just to understand slide 12. So what we have said is the number, let us say, for the entire bank 6.53. This is SMA 1 plus 2 put together, and SMA 2 only is 1.5%. Is that the right understanding?
Yes.
Right. And when you say X bucket 85, so this means SMA 0 plus 1 plus 2 put together is 15% for the entire bank.
Yeah, and NPA. So X bucket is non-delinquent. Delinquent includes 1 to 90 plus NPA.
Okay. So all SMA plus NPA is 15%.
Yes.
Right. Great, sir. So that was the first clarification. Second thing is on the entire merger process. So this MPS, the fulfilling MPS is precedent to merger, right? I mean, there is no way you can avoid this, because anyway, if you want to see the 3 years timeline, if SEBI has exempted the promoter lock-in thing, then anyway this would have been achieved. But just to understand this clear, this is a precedent to the reverse merger, right?
Yes, that's right. So the 3-year 20% lock-in that we have got waivers from SEBI, the MPS, which is that bank has to have 25% of its shares held by the public, that's that MPS, that needs to be achieved, and that is precedent to the merger approval from SEBI. So that's where the QIP process is underway to help achieve the 25%, post which we will approach SEBI for the formal approval for the merger scheme.
Right. And sir, in the opening comment you mentioned about the third quarter FY23 timeline. This is the timeline for the entire process to go through, right? Reverse merger, including RBI approval, SEBI approval, and maybe NCLT approval.
That's right. We know it includes NCLT approval, shareholders approval, ROC approval, everything, and finally the merger should get completed totally.
Right. Okay. Great, sir. And just 2 data keeping questions. If you have you have given the restructured number outstanding, and if you can also give the provisions on this 1800 crores outstanding pool. I think you have mentioned 1.9 billion, which is additional, but what would be the outstanding number? And second is ECLGS, is this still remains 0? Yeah, that is it.
Yeah, ECLGS remains 0. The total provisions held on restructured assets
192.
No, it's 243 crores.
Understood.
So if you look at our last slide 34, we have put the P&L impact. The total provision we hold is 243.
Right. Okay. Great, sir. And sorry, sir, the last thing, if I may ask, the upgradation that we have seen, that looks reasonably good. Is this, I believe is part of this is because, economy is improving, people are coming out of COVID crisis at individual level. But does this also include the upgrade from NPA because restructuring? And what would be that amount? Would that amount be significant? Hello?
This is the operator.
Yeah.
I'm saying, sir, if you can quantify the upgrade because of restructuring done in this quarter. Thank you.
Those figures I won't have ready. You have it? I'll give it later. Okay, we will give it later.
Sure. Thank you so much, and all the best, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavik Dave from Nippon India Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, sir. Congratulations on a good quarter. Sir, a couple of questions. One is to understand we've done a great job on the liability, especially on the SA and TD. But just want to understand the CA bit, where CA balances or the CA deposit base has remained quite static around that 400-500 mark. Is there any strategy to improve this? What are we thinking about it? What are we doing to improve this number? That's my first question. And second question is on the Neo balances, Neo accounts that we are opening around 7 lakh or per quarter. What is the commensurate cost with it? Because if we see the operating expenses on the other operating expenses, that hasn't been growing in that very strong pace. So from that perspective, I wanted to understand how is the economics of this opening these accounts, and where do these guys have balances? Like, are they elite? Are they wings? Where do they sit, most of them? Thanks.
Thank you. First, let us take your car question. What is our car strategy? See, car, as we all know, till yesterday evening, not only us, the entire industry went through the regulatory, guidances, wherein we were forced to close few of those accounts where ODCC is less than 10%. So we have to go down to rise again. So if you see quarter on quarter, I think this is the first quarter in last 2 quarters where car has gone up by 26%. So this absolute base of whatever you're seeing 472 crores is after going down through dieting and then gaining it back through again acquisition. So it's a cycle that has come through. Our absolute acquisition has gone up to 2,000 to 3,000 accounts a month, and we are actually adding 30 crores of new value into the car book, and we are also focused on deepening. To strengthen car, now we have a merchant acquiring piece which is complementing it. We will soon have LACR to supplement it, and we will have a digital solution, say 3-4 months from now through merchant app. So we have a very clear trajectory on what we need to go up to car, and at this point of time, the acquisition IP and the quality of transaction management is very good. So car will continue to see a growth from here on. And yesterday evening, I think all of you might be aware that new regulation to open the car and manage the car has also come in, which should help us along with all. Now to the second part of your Neo plus Selfie. In Neo, we don't pay anything upfront, only on the qualified accounts and based on some balances, which is a different economic. So on Selfie, there is a marketing cost involved to source per account. So let's first address the Neo part of it. Neo and Equitas has come together to promote savings as a theme. Either which way, I should wish you also tomorrow is a World Saving Day. You should also try our Neo, Equitas or Selfie through that. Sure. It will help you to make our life easier and get you savings inculcated. So there is no payout involved. So what we open is a half KYC account, then we do a full KYC, and close to 30% of the accounts have done full KYC, and the average balances is 10 to 12,000 rupees. So if you complete a full KYC, it picks up. Then we have a direct sourcing model called Selfie, where we do the search engine optimization and social India marketing, and we open the account, which is 3 lakh within this 7 lakh. And there, full KYC accounts yield 40,000. The primary reason why it is 4x of Neo is good profile customer based on our demography, and we do some filtering, and we do propensity based management and map it to the customer being met by RM. It's 40,000 on monthly. So we gain through full KYC only. So more you keep it as a half KYC account, the balances will dwindle. It will be sub 1,000 like any other industry. The game is how fast you can convert it into a full KYC. Today we have 30% of the bank customer come through digital route who has moved into full KYC mode, and now to facilitate that, we have already gone full throttle live on video KYC, and we have already recently gone live video KYC through our RM sitting at the branches also based on catchment, which they will do full KYC. So as we move on, maybe 6 months from now, this can be a bigger feeder channel to the digital channel. So what will happen ideally is the customer or a consumer comes through digital, full KYC then given to the RM or an RO, mapped book, you keep meeting them, increase the balance, cross-sell. This is going to be a new life cycle and a work routine for the bankers by itself. So it's a new evolution and an adventurous path. We should keep allowing it to in this direction. So your cost, what we discussed at Neo, it's not there on per account sourcing basis. At Selfie, there's a marketing cost involved because you need to play on certain open sites and search engine optimization and stuff like that. As of now, revenue to cost dynamics, as we all know, digital is an area where you are burning and earning is, earning is a lag effect of burning. We are factoring that, and we are taking that cushion what we can afford to. We are quite happy with what we are doing. We will rationalize it. and we will focus more on VKYC customers increasingly going forward. So you might see a slight dip in numbers of selfie, which means we are focusing more on VKYC. That's going to be increasingly our approach.
Sure. And the total number of new accounts would be around million, right? 7 lakh this quarter and last quarter was around.
No. Total accounts, which number of accounts sourced is 7 lakh 1,000. Out of that, 4 lakhs is new, 3 lakhs is selfie.
This is the stock. This is not like this quarter alone.
This is a quarter stock. Yeah.
Acquired in the quarter.
Acquired.
The total number of new accounts will be how many till now?
6 lakhs.
Since the time we started.
6 lakhs. 6 lakhs from the time we started.
Would be the selfie. So around 9 lakhs.
Correct. Total 9 lakhs is our digital account opened.
Perfect. Understood. Well understood. And the cost is, like you mentioned, the marketing cost for the selfie and no per account cost for Neo at this point.
Only qualified account cost for Neo.
Okay.
So the propulsion there is to convert it into full KYC.
Okay. Understood. All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vidisha from Antique Stock Broking Limited. Please go ahead. Ms. Vidisha,
Hello.
your line is in talk mode.
Yeah. Hello, sir. So firstly, on the freight rates, you had mentioned in the opening remarks that freight rates for e-commerce has increased. So does it mean that the small commercial vehicles and the intermediate commercial vehicles are better off? In the MHCVs, the freight rates have not gone up so much?
One is the the freight availability has gone up. Now the question is whether freight rates have also improved for small commercial vehicles. So generally what happens is when any development happens, first of all it happens in the formal economy. So what has happened, all the trunk routes, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, for the large fleet operators, there the freight load increase. So that has absolutely happened. That is very visible, and that is one reason why manufacturers ramped up production in August and sales were also pretty good. Now whether this thing is passed on to the small commercial vehicle, as of now, no. But yes, some has definitely been passed off, and with increasing availability of load, I'm sure that more of this freight rate, with the festive season also being there, with more freight available, these freight rates would also be passed on to the small commercial vehicles for us. But small commercial vehicles are seeing a big, good, robust sales also, there's demand also, so we can safely assume that from the earlier COVID non-remunerative operations, now they are seeing operations as remunerative, otherwise sales wouldn't have increased.
Okay. Got it. And what about UCV? Like within UCV, the smaller vehicles and the higher vehicles? What about the freight rates in those segments?
So there, definitely there is some improvement, but not such a great improvement. That's why I'm saying, that the last quarter was a growth of the formal economy. This quarter, you'll see that effect trickle into the informal economy. See, a good barometer of the informal economy improving is tractor sales and two-wheeler sales. But if you look at two-wheeler sales are down year-on-year by 17%. Forget pre-COVID. It's year-on-year itself, it's down by 17%. If you look at Hero Honda has a 34% market share, and Hero Honda sales are down by 27%. So clearly, the informal economy is lagging behind the formal economy. And that I feel will happen 2-3 reasons. One is formal economy is doing well. Obviously, that effect passes on to the informal economy. Secondly, this is festive season. See, H2 is generally, in India, H2 for all products is increasing. So H2 is generally good for all products for increasing sales. Most of your consumption happens during Diwali. So I'm quite confident. I'm quite optimistic that the informal economy also would pick up now.
Sure, sir. And secondly, sir, what will be the prices trending for the second-hand vehicles? How the price movements have fared now?
The price movement has still not gone up. You mean the resale value of second-hand vehicles has still not gone up. But I expect that in this quarter or in the next 6 months, there will be some change in price movement. See, another significant thing is, passenger vehicle transportation will go up because schools are opening up. Passenger vehicle transportation, especially the buses, were down heavily. I mean, completely. I mean, there's absolutely no demand there. So that demand will pick up now with schools opening up, with IT offices opening up. So overall, there would definitely be an improvement in the informal economy, freight rates, as well as remunerated transportation, as well as the price of used vehicles.
Okay. So, and the last question, what will be the stock of repossessed assets compared to your normal pre-COVID level?
It's higher by about 6 crores.
Okay,
normally
fine.
we would keep a stock of about 10 to 11 crores. It's at about 17 crores. So 5 to 6 crores is higher.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sharaj Singh from Laburnum Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good morning. So my question is regarding the loan book which is restructured. Any specific segment which is seeing some stress, as in the microfinance and the vehicle particularly? Hello?
Yeah. So any segment which is seeing stress in the restructured book. So if you look at the last year result, microfinance obviously is showing the highest stress. Done during the year, I think this quarter we'll come to know. But generally from a contribution to stress, I would say microfinance is the highest.
No, so I mean to say among the accounts that have been restructured, where do we expect some major deficiencies in those accounts in the coming quarters as of now?
You're asking us about the behavior of the restructured pool. Is that the question?
Yeah.
So I don't have numbers, but as we have given some numbers on the RSL1 pool on the accounts in NPA, right? That behavior we have clearly said, and there's a reason for it. See, the RSL1 customer was standard as of that March, but suffered a massive, stress during COVID-1. Now, again, immediately after he coming back into business, COVID wave has struck. So obviously, the RSL1 customer would, suffer some kind of a little bit of more stress. But RSL2, as I explained, because the economic conditions are doing well, freight availability is there, businesses have opened up. So I don't see that kind of impact in the restructured loans due to COVID-2. Because in COVID-2, see, these people were standard as of March, and they have gone into stress only post-March. So it's a very short period of time, which means they'll be able to come back pretty fast.
So the second question is, given that we're focusing a little more on the housing finance in the segment, how should we look at the yields in the coming years, suppose a couple of years down the line?
Yields in housing finance, retail portfolio would go up. Because as of now, we are only in some markets, Are you talking about overall the book?
Book, yeah. Impact.
Only about the book. No, so this book, the yields in the housing finance book will definitely go up, because as of now, we started in Gujarat and we got into Maharashtra. So now we will be getting into South. I think yields will definitely go up in the affordable housing loan book.
Right. But the impact on the overall book yields?
Yeah, so most of our products, the yields continue to remain sticky. The only change in yield is because of the change in composition. As housing, new CV, used cars start to pick up, you will see that impact on the yields. In the medium term, like we've always been saying, we don't see any dramatic improvement, any dramatic change in the yield. So we are broadly there. I think give or take 100, 150 basis points, they're there.
Okay. And some the ROEs for the same thing?
Yeah, so ROEs, I think if you just look at our past, December 2019, I think is the first thing we would want to reach, because after that it's where it's all got marred by the COVID impact. So I think it's fair enough to get our fundamentals first to reflect pre-COVID, which is December 2019. I think once we reach there, we'll hopefully go back to where the business model is, and that's we've been consistently saying that this is a two quarter ROA, high teen ROE business. But I think immediate is to come back to December 2019 numbers.
15% analyzed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nidesh Jain from Investec. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, sir. Sir, how do we think about the operating profitability? If you look at last 4-5 quarters, despite this our tie-ups with payment companies being there in our P&L, our operating profitability has declined quite a bit. We reached around 220 crores in Q2 FY21, but now it is 195 crore. So how do we think about this going forward, and what is the reason for the decline in operating profitability despite these tie-ups as well as loan book growth in last 1 year?
There are a few things which we'll have to take into consideration. One is we are in a phase of higher NPAs. So that has an impact on the net interest income because it gets removed from that. So hopefully when we come back to normal levels of NPA, you will see some bit of that profitability coming in because of income recognition. Second, I think is more related to an OPEX point of view. We've, I think, by and largely been stable on OPEX so far. Now we have got into some bit of investment, like Sridhar had pointed out, on technology, on branding. But I think that is more a 1-2 quarter phenomenon. So we should see profitability start improving. And as you see from our income, even now some bit of our income is linked strongly with disbursement traction. So microfinance and small business loans. So as our disbursement picks up, we will start seeing the processing fee also pick up, which was also absent, I would say, for the last 6 months. So some of those factors need to revert to normal. Is one, NPA reverting to normal, so that income getting recognized, processing fee due to disbursements coming back to normal, and I think we are there right now. And last, from an OPEX, I think it's going to be sticky because we're making some investments, but I think income should outplay that. So operating jaws should continue to improve, hopefully from the coming quarters. That's because yields have not. If you look at NIMs, continue to remain at 8% odd. So that is, we're not seeing NIM pressure. So the rest of things I think are purely momentary.
And this investment that we are doing, can you share the quantum in our OPEX this quarter and how that will trend over coming quarters or coming years?
Yeah, just give us a second. Yeah. So we have about 35 crores in the quarterly OPEX, which has moved up because of technology investments and branding investments. So that's the quantum.
And that will remain now stable?
Not necessary. So there is some bit of it won't be continuously 35 crores for the coming quarters. That's difficult to predict, but it may not move up in the same pace.
Sure. And secondly, on the restructuring, the total pool outstanding as of September is 1,819 crores. Out of that, 77 crore has already slipped into NPA. So standard restructured pool is some 1,740 odd crores. And on that standard pool, we are having a provision of 243 crores. Is that right understanding?
Yeah, your understanding is right actually with regard to the restructured as well as the provision.
Sure. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sameer Bhise from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. Just looking at the mass affluent customer slide, obviously some part of these relationships will be, the accounts will be Selfe and Neo both, right?
Mass affluent. It is Wings and Elite. This is coming through the
Wings
physical
and
channel.
Elite is the product or the relationship name or a product suite name.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
some accounts
Yeah, yeah.
of these would be overlapping, as the account would be Selfie and Neo.
No, Selfie and Neo is a half KYC account. Wings is the higher end of the product and Elite is the beginning of a program. So Elite is generally sourced by the physical channel, that is branches, RM, PB and the BDO. So it's Wings. In the Selfies, we do a data cut and we give them greater than 10 lakhs through the back-end analysis, and 5% of the sourcing of Selfie is now feeding for Wings. That is the highest end of the product, and 1% of that is feeding it to the Elite. So as we discussed earlier, digital complementing physical is actually becoming a real through the Selfie platform.
Okay, so the overlap is very little. Is that
very little.
Yeah. And when we say that we make some bit of fee on the cross sell, so obviously that would largely be coming from the premium and Wings side.
Correct. It is on the mass affluent, HNI and ultra HNI. This is the three segments where we make protection, investments and our 3-in-1 accounts.
Okay. So any sense you can share on how the cross sell has moved on this part of the customer piece or number of customers on this side? Because the balance share is roughly 7,000-8,000 crore because of Wings and Elite.
Correct. So our sourcing and deepening predominantly, if you see, as I said, there are 3 stages of relationship management. One is virtual relationship managers who handle between 1,000 and 1 lakh rupees as RV. Second stage is 1 lakh to 5 lakh, we give it to the role called personal bankers. And 5 lakh and above goes to the RM. This put together is our 65% of the book. If you go back and see what we have as a product holding, is a very indicative measurement through which we understand the stickiness and the penetration into the consumer segment. So in the mapped book, we have close to 35% of the consumer who have consumed 2 or more products. The 2 or more products means what? Either a CASA, either a TD, either an investment or a protection. It's core banking products along with protection and investment. Anything other than that, for example, debit cards and all, we don't count at all. So this we want to take it up to 60% over a period of time. Maybe it will take, because increasingly when your numerator keeps adding at a significant pace, but our focus is towards this direction. So mapped book progress is a key indicator in terms of product holding at a consumer level, and it is measured with the RV growth through pool of liabilities. So mapped book RV today stands at 6 to 7 lakhs, which means average consumer has CASA plus TD put together as 7 lakhs in mapped book. So this increase in trajectory of relationship value, product holding and penetration of investment and protection are the key drivers through which managed and mapped book is managed.
Okay. I'll probably need some more details, so I'll connect with you and Dheeraj offline. Just one quick detail. When we say that 85% of the book is in X collection, would some part of restructuring be there? Because restructured customers would be paying on time the revised outgo or monthly outgo. So would they fall under X bucket?
Yeah, they fall under X.
What quantum would that be?
So the entire reset of 1400.
1,800 minus 77.
So the entire book 1,800 minus 77.
Which is okay. So all of it will fall under X bucket.
Yeah. Most of it, some would have gone because our billing or our collection efficiencies on X bucket, we have told you it's not 100%. That means some tend to flow into the next bucket, but by and large, you can assume that most of it is in X.
Great. Thank you and all the best. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhijit Sakhare from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. The first question is on the slide on the 30 to 90 DPD movement. So there is almost 1,000 crore reduction. How do we differentiate between actual repayments versus restructuring that has happened this quarter?
1 second.
32.
1 second. Which slide was that DPD slide which are you on? 12, no?
Slide number 12, yeah.
Okay. So I heard 32. Yeah. Yeah, can you just, you're talking between X bucket and 60 to 90?
So those
what led to the reduction?
Yeah, that 12% falling to 6.5. Like is that actual repayment or there is some support because of the restructuring this quarter?
Yeah, Rohit.
Yeah. So, yeah, there will be some support from restructuring, but basically it is 85-90% would be from collections. People actually going to the field and collecting from customers.
Okay. So the other way to understand is the restructuring that has happened, those were not part of the 30 to 90 pool, right?
Yeah. So for RSL2, obviously the billing is yet to start.
Yeah. No, let me rephrase the question. You said you're asking the fall in the 60 to 9 in the 31 to 90 from 12 to 6. Is it because some of the accounts were restructured and they've become X? So the answer is not. It will not be significant because most of the restructuring we would have done would generally not fall in this too much of a bucket. It would be spread across, I would put it. Spread across. So it's not lumpy for us to make that strong reduction, but yes, it has some part of it is.
See, some of it will definitely be there, but a significant portion is collections we want.
Yeah, we'll pull out that.
Yeah, we'll give you the number.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll have it right now. RSL book. Yeah, we will upload this. We'll get it re-uploaded on the website. We'll give this data.
Great, thanks. The second one was like how do we look at the margin trajectory over the next 12 months, and if you could quantify the amount of interest reversals in the first half this year.
Yeah. One second. For this first half, right?
Yes.
Yeah, while we pull out what's been the reversal due to NPA, see the margins I think have remained at generally at about 8.5%, and generally you see it fluctuate below that is because of any of these one-offs. So we should remain at the same level, at least for the medium term. But we don't see the portfolio composition changing dramatically, either MFI or small business loans, which are the higher yielding portfolios. We don't see that changing much. 34 crores is the income reversal in the first half due to NPA.
Got it. And sorry, one last data point is that within the SBL book, if you can quantify the NPLs in the MSME and the housing book separately.
No, we haven't started that. There, if you ask me, the comparison would be small business loans, and within it we have housing. So we've not started to give those numbers yet, but safe to assume that housing of our portfolio reflects most of the affordable housing players in the market. So it's very, very comparable. But I think once that book reaches some decent size, we will then start reporting it separately. You'll have to bear with us till then.
Okay, got it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take the last question from the line of Nihar Shah from Newmark Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Nihar.
Yeah, just again, sort of discussing the cost to income part of it. Typically, you've guided towards a 400-500 basis points reduction on a year-on-year basis. You reach somewhere in the 50-55% levels. You were at about 58% to 60% last year, and right now the first half is looking at like 67-68%. Just given the commentary that you've given on the costs on investments in technology and some of the other areas, branding, is there a change to how you think about your cost to income progression over the next few years? And obviously this year doesn't seem to be somewhere where you can probably get to a reduction,
But if you have to think about it over a longer term, how does that, how do you think about it now?
Yeah. So, we were at around the 57-58% last year, pre-COVID, and ideally it should have come down to that 55, which we had kind of, expected. But then, of course, the COVID has hit us, and that's changed the entire picture. But going forward, we should still be looking to reach that, earlier level of 55 that we have been talking about. We should be able to reach that shortly. I'm not going to really give you a timeline on when we will reach, but definitely that's the trajectory that we will be trending to. And see, the point is that Equitas, the model of Equitas is largely from a expense side. It's largely a fixed expenses model, and so when the business goes down and the growth in assets is really impacted strongly, the income goes down, and then on top of that you have an increase in NPA, like what you have seen in the last 12 months or so, that again impacts the income. And so we have seen the cost to income ratio going up, but as the market stabilizes and the lockdowns hopefully touch wood do not come back again, and as I mentioned in my opening comments, we should be looking to reach our 25% plus asset advances growth shortly. So as our advances growth comes back, as our NPA stabilizes and the reversal is not very significant, income reversal, is not very significant, then we should start seeing that cost income going down, again. It's a question of time, and the direction is clearly going to be in that direction. It's only a question of time as we reach that. I'm not really going to tell you exactly by when we will reach that 55%, but it's a question of the next few quarters.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. P. N. Vasudevan for his closing comments. Thank you and over to you.
Thank you all of you. Thanks for dialing in and patiently listening to us, and thank you for asking all your clarifications. We do hope to have your continued support going forward, and let's all pray, let's all jointly together pray that the country continues to remain COVID free as it is for the last 4 months, and all of us get back to our regular life very fast. Thank you so much, and wish you all the very best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Equitas Small Finance Bank Limited, we conclude today's conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.